This is my presentation, my mini learning challenge on the concept of why our minority students, African American and Hispanic students, will get less paying jobs than their white counterparts and why they typically don't graduate from high school or earn a college degree. So my first reason is that Black students will receive an inequity in their education based on the location of school. So in past studies, they have discovered that African American students are typically congregated in high dense areas, which tend to be cities versus suburb or rural areas, and that these students perform lower than students who don't go to school in those high dense African American schools or even schools with a high population of Hispanics. So the location of the school can differ on the type of education that a student's going to get. So another reason is that besides just a location of the school being located in a certain area or a certain city, within the school system, the students can receive different experiences and education based on what their class is. So students can go through school and experience low expectations for either themselves or from teachers because of um, the students and the teachers setting low expectations. So students in the same grades can have low expectations because maybe they lack foundational skills that they need in order to be successful for their grade or for the concept that they're learning, and teachers are feeling frustrated and overwhelmed based on the achievement gap. And so instead of addressing 5 years of lack of foundational skills, they just water down the curriculum and differentiate so these students can feel somewhat successful. However, the curriculum is not going to be the same because they are getting a less rigorous curriculum and not learning the same thing as their counterparts who are not within that school system. Reason number three is that the cost of education is just not of value to some of these minority students. So when we say that, we are generalizing this statement. So sometimes these students don't see the value in education, specifically in college, that they're taking upon the debt for the students is just not worth having that career because maybe these students have a lower SES or socioeconomic status as well, and that they don't want to take a federal loan because 90% of these students have to take a federal loan versus their 65% counterparts. And even a study revealed that even if they do have the cost of education, is that these students are more likely to be unemployed based on their education and are more unlikely to be hired than their counterparts as white students who were interviewed for the same job with the same qualifications. So interview at my school. My school is predominantly Hispanic, and there's a few African American students. Our assistant principal said that he thinks that the main issue our students are not being successful in education is because of outside home factors. The students' financial means for their family, as well as just a lot of outside home issues that the students have to deal with. In particular, a lot of our students do not have two parents, and they may have AKA a rough home life where the parents are not working or they're not working 9 to 5 jobs and their families are just dispersed. The kids are raising themselves. The parents are just not home. They're not in check to keep on tabs with the students. And even that sometimes the students are the primary caregiver for their sisters, their brothers. They're at home raising the others, and as well as our ELL students or Hispanic minority students, primarily are usually the one at home who is speaking English only, and so their parents cannot become involved in their education so that they could be successful because they just don't know understand the language, and there's a language barrier. So these students are facing a lot of obstacles that they have to face, and just education is not becoming a priority based on their home life circumstance. So a solution is to provide incentives to create effective teachers in those high dense population areas of minority students. So if you provide incentives for teachers with more training, requiring more education, that way they can feel more prepared to teach the students who are in those minority populations, as well as provide more opportunities for classes that students necessarily might not have, or opportunities such as like STEM. Some schools has robotics, cooking, so taking a foreign language, things like that. Another solution is to ensure that minority students attend college. The schools the schools should require all students to create a pathway to college program. So students could be supported in high school creating a path for college. So they have to select colleges that they are interested in. And it's really important because, as we know, historically, students will choose an institution that is minority represented, that they feel comfortable with in means of academics programs and the cost or potentially the availability of financial aid. So it has to start with high school, with the students researching these colleges in order to make sure that they can make those factors meet their needs for their family and as well as their academic needs and interests. The last solution is the recruitment of minor students from colleges for financial aid to decrease the education attainment gap and the income gap from minority families. So as we know, typically an average income from Hispanics or African Americans families is a lot lower, so substantially lower than a white family's income. So with that said, we have to make college affordable. It comes down from that government. So in a survey, minority students and their family says it has to be government activism. Government has to take active on the cost of financial aid, and that may be include that high schools have to research more colleges for their students. The college has to cut down costs, right? So instead of a class of 20, it'll be a class of 25 in order to make sure that these students can be successful. On the contrary, from that same survey, whites were skeptic about addressing that gap of the government feeling that they were financially in charge of making sure that college becomes affordable by addressing that gap. So in an interview about one of my coworkers, he is an African American male, he says that in order to fix the solution, it has to come from home. So our students need to see that they have a value of education, and their parents need to become role models in order to ensure that their family honors the education and make sure that they take the right path. And here is the list of my references that I used to create this presentation.